Hi, I'm Wendy Yellen, and this is The Art of Transformation. Before I continue, please do like and subscribe this video. It helps us to reach so many more people, and thank you. I appreciate it. So many of us think that we have to get ourselves into a certain kind of mindset in order to tackle our taxes or our closet or tidy the house or practice an instrument or do yoga or meditation. We think we have to force ourselves into a certain state in order to get the most out of it. And our focus tends to be on actually doing the thing. So, in some of the recent videos that I've done, I've talked about how I use myself as a guinea pig in terms of my closet, which is both a clothing closet but also a storage closet. So, for example, pictures that aren't currently up on the wall, scuba diving equipment, camping equipment, notebooks that I'm not using, pictures and mementos. It just got crazy, and that's basically our storage spot. And I got to the point where I couldn't stand walking in there. It's a relatively small closet for all those things, and I really felt terrible every time I'd walk in, and so of course what was happening was that I was paying less and less attention to making it or keeping it nice in any stretch of the imagination, and it just got worse and worse. And there was not a bone in my body that wanted to tackle it. It seemed monumental. So I took myself as, again, a guinea pig. And what I want to do today is show you some of the really surprising things that happened in my mind, in my closet, and we'll probably get into some of the things that were happening with some of my clients, because at once I started the experiment on myself and I saw how well it was going, then I started doing it with them too. Now, this is not about a boot camp for getting something done, pulling yourself up and forcing yourself to slog through the I don't want to until you get to it. For many reasons, including that kind of whipping yourself into shape rarely works for me. And if it does, it tends to backfire over time. I don't like to treat myself that way. And if I have to do it that way, a lot of times I just rather not. Besides, what I know from my own personal eidetic work is that there are things in me which are stopping me. And those things, my experience is that those things will continue to stop me unless I deal with those things. Not the closet, but the things inside me that make me delay or stamp my feet, have a tantrum internally, or just ignore it for years at a time. Now, of course, you can't relate to anything that I'm saying, right? You've never delayed or procrastinated. Well, of course, we all do this. This is part of the human condition. And what I delightfully discovered is how different it can be. And I want to show you some of those ways for yourself, both partly so you can feel hope, but also so that you can actually do the thing. So for me, the idea of cleaning the closet, and it's not just cleaning the closet, it was actually going through all those pictures from, decades, and the mementos and the stuff I didn't want to throw away but don't use, not clothing, but all the other stuff that we were storing in there, just was too much. It's just like, who wants to spend their weekend doing that? Absolutely, I didn't want to. And of course, I'd read all the books and I'd done a lot of work in the past and gotten the clothes in a pretty tidied up and was feeling good about that. But the rest just was too much. So can you relate to this for yourself, where there's something you say you want to do, You actually know you want to do it, but it feels like such an incredibly heavy burden that you can't even raise it an inch. In fact, you don't even want to think about it, raising it an inch. You'd rather do pretty much anything else. And again, this can be something you really want to do, like play your musical instrument or do more yoga. Now, in our minds, what we do is we think, okay, so this is a chore, a task. Everybody has to do it. I want my house to look nice. I need to go in there, spend the time, straighten it up. You throw some things, you give some things away, you do whatever you need to do to sort and distribute. But that's a very simplified view, I learned, of what this doing something that you procrastinated entails. And again, I'm going to keep using the closet example. So for one thing, it didn't feel like fun. There was nothing about it that felt like fun, and it didn't feel like it could ever be fun. There certainly was nothing about it that was an adventure, and less than zero part of it that felt magical or mystical or funny. And there were several parts that I was resisting, beginning, continuing to do, and continuing to do, and continuing to do, because I knew it was going to be massive. And I didn't trust myself to actually finish it and have it be right. Again, this was not the first time I tried to tackle it. It was probably the worst it had ever been. So part of what I want you to think about here for yourself is, when you think of the situation that you're procrastinating on, that you really want to do, a goal, something you're delaying, even a delight, what's in your mind about who you'd have to be to do it, how you'd have to act to do it? A lot of times people think they would have to be so disciplined, and the idea of being disciplined is such goes so against the grain of who they're being in the rest of their life and what they value that they run screaming in the other direction. Like, what are some of the things that are in your mind about doing more journaling or yoga or playing your instrument or doing your art? Stop the recording and jot down a few notes so that you can really see what's in your mind. And we're going to go a lot further than that, but I want you to at least explore just for a moment or two. For me, it's just a job. I got to get it done. It's awful. I don't feel good about it. And period. There's just no choice here. And yes, maybe it could be more or less pleasant. But again, the idea of it being an adventure? No. Sorry. But strangely, once I worked through, and I'll show you how I did it, once I worked through some of my own inner obstacles in a really pleasant, fun way, the job naturally became fun. Fun, maybe slightly, no, it wasn't fun. That's not true. But it was so much easier than I ever could have imagined. And I wouldn't have to so-called gird my loins to get myself into that closet. I would just, after a while, go and do a little bit more and come back. It was so not a big deal anymore. It was like this gigantic looming mountain that I had been facing just wasn't present in my mind at all anymore. So what are some of the things that I did to get myself there? Now, to get myself there, that's actually an incorrect way of saying it, because I really didn't put any pressure on myself to get this done. I knew eventually I I felt like I had to because it's felt so against who I am. But I was not going to push myself on the timing of it because I did have all the time I needed. So I tried what we talk about in Eidetics. I tried different filters. Now, normally, to try a filter, it's generally a family member. It could be an iconic person that means a lot to you. It could be Gandhi, it could be Oprah, it could be just a famous writer. It could be a famous person from history. It could be a mythological figure, and it could be your grandmother. But the thing is, you don't start with thinking, for example, if you wanted to use a filter for your business and your grandmother never got beyond 11th grade, your head would tell you, don't use Gram because she didn't get much schooling. But that's an intellectual and very shallow understanding of what the mind can do and how the mind works. Because 11th grade educated grandmother could very well be the perfect filter for you, for your business, because perhaps there was a lot of ease about her and gentleness and kindness and a flow to her that when you use her as a filter, that's what you feel inside of you. You start to access that flow and that ease that's already inside you. It helps you access it more. So it's not about the schooling, but it's about how she is inside of you right now. And the same thing, let's say you had a really successful father in his business. But like a couple of my clients, the way he did it was a little hard, little bit mean, and way too much work, meaning that he wasn't spending much time with you. So while your father might have known about business, and if you had asked him for some business advice, maybe he could have given you some great advice. But the thing is that all of that is bundled together. That the feeling sense of the way he had his success is bundled in with the success inside you. Not your thoughts, but it's like an inner response. And so you then have his ability to help you, but it's blocked by your negative feelings about what he had to do and especially who he had to be that successful. So how do you apply a filter? You apply a filter, it's an experiment. So you see the situation that you're dealing with, let's say the closet. And what I did was I tried different people. Now, the surprising thing for me was that I tried my maternal grandmother, affectionately known as Gram, who I would normally not have used my thinking mind to think of her. But again, Eidetics is not your thinking mind. It's so much more deeper and wiser than that. So once I put my grandmother in mind, I saw her in my closet picking up. She was so curious and so sweetly interested, energized and sweetly interested. And I had some books from Dr. Asen, the father of Eidetics. I have lots of his books back there, and which are mostly out of print right now. And they're also burdensome because they're just sitting there, and I'd really like them to be being used. And they take up a lot of space. And Gram was she'd pick up a book. I actually saw her in the closet, and she'd pick up a book. She'd reach her hand way back into the corner, and she would pull out this one book, and she would, what's this about, Wendy? And, I know who this should go to. And she just was so, she was very present. She was very interested, very connected. There was no sense of burden whatsoever. And another time I saw her in there, and she's kind of on a mound of dirt in the middle of my closet, kind of directing things, almost like Jabba the Hutt, if you know that character. And again, it was such a kind of fun, almost mystical feeling. And I had many eidetic times with my grandmother in the closet. And what I literally found myself ordering different kind of storage boxes, making a much prettier kind of footprint, and going in there and doing things and actually making it, in some ways, beautiful for me. And I was so proud. I was so proud and so excited. And I'd go in there, and I would literally a couple times, like in the evening, I just walk over into the closet and look at it because it gave me so much pleasure. And I dragged my husband in there because it's my office closet. And he said something that I've never heard him say anything like ever. He said something like, "This is the most serene spot in the house." He said, "Did you ever realize what a difference, how calm it makes you feel?" And I was like, and my husband would be the last person to be saying something like that. It was really striking. And he was right. So since that time, also what I've noticed, I happen to have broken my elbow with an accident with our puppy about 3/4 of the way through. So that really slowed me down. But even though there are still, maybe 5 or 6 boxes left, it doesn't feel like I'll never do this or it's such a burden. I do a little bit with my one good arm right now, but it's just not the same. It doesn't weigh on me. And I found this to be true with everyone in the Eidetic Mastermind. Everybody picked something that they'd been delaying, and everybody moved forward on it. Again, not by telling themselves they had to do it by a certain date or nothing like that. They worked with filters, many different filters, repeatedly. And one of the things that people said was what helped them was to see that I just kept going. I kept working with my grandmother as a filter, and each time things would come up very, very differently. And I would see it and I would feel it, because that's what you do in Eidetics. You see it first and then you feel it. And I could feel the softness and the shift starting to happen inside me. So all of this is to really let you know that it is so completely possible to do something that you have delayed for decades or just years without making yourself into an automaton, and the opposite, actually naturally, organically being excited about it, and even so excited you can't even sleep because it feels so good. I've done a lot of videos and vlogs about how to use filter, and you'll find these on my blog page. So you can certainly experiment with some of those for yourself. The point of this particular audio is to give you some inkling of what else is possible inside of you. See you on the next recording.